Hello and welcome to Spokane County Spotlight. I'm Commissioner Mary Cuney. Today my guests are Colonel Mike Curry, who serves as the commander for the 58th Special Operations Wing, also known as SOW, at Kirkland Air Force Base in New Mexico, and Colonel Nick DePoma, who serves as the commander for the 336th Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape Training Group, also known as SEER. Colonel Curry and Colonel DePoma, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I am really excited to discuss some of the amazing things that the airmen and women are doing in the 58th SOW as part of the Air Education and Training Command, also known as AETC, and the 336th SEER Training Group. But before we get into those topics, could you both give me a little background on yourselves and the audience? I'm going to start with you, Colonel Curry.
Well, thank you. Mary, thank you so much for inviting us both to be here. We're excited to do this. So I grew up in a small town in Ohio called Eden on a farm. I went to the Air Force Academy and got commissioned in 1998. I was fortunate enough to go to pilot training, and from there went off to various assignments in the Special Operations Command, flying C-130s and other smaller aircraft. And then right before I got to this job, I was the vice commander at the 1st Special Operations Wing at Hurlburt Field in Florida before getting fortunate enough to be selected as the 58th Special Operations Wing commander at Kirtland.
That's very exciting. And can you give us just a little bit of personal information? I'm assuming you're married. I know that.
Yes, married to Christine. We've been married now about 18 years. 2 children, a boy 14 and a girl 12. Both very excited about getting back to school and getting started again. First experiences in high school, so it'll be a lot of fun.
That'll be exciting.
Yes.
No, very good. Thank you very much. And so, Colonel DePoma, can you give us a little background on yourself as well?
Absolutely. So I grew up as what we call an Air Force brat. So my dad was in the Air Force, so grew up moving all around the country. Spent most of my time growing up between the DC area and San Antonio, Texas, though. Also went to the Air Force Academy, like Colonel Curry. Graduated in 2000 and was also fortunate to go to pilot training after that, become a helicopter pilot. I've been assigned in 11 different places throughout my career. Many favorites, Spokane certainly at the top of the list. Last job before I came here, I was working at the Pentagon at Headquarters Air Force doing future planning and strategy work there, and was lucky to come out here 13 months ago to command the 336 TRG SEER School, along with my wife Devin of 14 years, and our daughter Olivia, who's 9, and son Joey, who's 7, who are pretty ecstatic about being here and all the outdoors and everything that the area has to offer.
That's awesome, and I'm sure they're probably a little more hesitant to start school here, but it's going to be good. I think we're excited that school's going to be back in session here soon.
I'm excited the school's going to be back in session.
Yes. Thank you for the introduction, gentlemen. Colonel Curry, can you give the viewers an overview of the 58th SOW and the role it plays in AETC? And I'm going to just say there's a lot of acronyms, so hopefully people caught those at the beginning. Yes. Because the Air Education and Training Command is definitely one of the commands that's very important. And so can you explain your role?
Absolutely, thank you. So the 58th Special Operations Wing has 3 groups, one of which is the training group that Nick commands. But in addition to that, I have an operations group and a maintenance group. What the 58th Special Operations Wing does is we provide undergraduate helicopter pilot training. So that is those folks that have not yet got their wings yet in the Air Force. They go to Fort Rucker, Alabama and learn how to fly helicopters right from the beginning. We also provide graduate training, which means those are the folks that already have wings, and we train them in a variety of aircraft. We train in the CV-22, the MV-22, which are both the tilt rotor transformer type aircraft, the UH-1, which is the Huey helicopter. We train in the HH-60, which is the Black Hawk. And then we also train in 2 different variants of the C-130, the MC-130, the Special Operations variant, and the HC-130, which is a rescue variant. We provide those things. And then inside the training group, we provide our SEER training to those at-risk individuals that the Air Force has.
So the AETC certainly has a broad array of operations, and here in Spokane, a lot of people are very familiar with the mission at Fairchild, including the SEER School. So Colonel DePoma, I'm going to have you tell us a little bit about the SEER School and how it fits into the AETC operations.
Sure. So the SEER School here at Fairchild, we've got 3 different squadrons. We've got the 22nd Training Squadron, and how the 22nd links us into the broader mission for AETC is that the majority of the students that come here that are training to become pilots or enlisted aviators or other air crew or special warfare airmen will train in a program here that's either 9 days or 19 days, depending on what their background is. And that's all executed by one squadron, the 22nd Training Squadron. So when you look at the TRGs fit into the broader operations of AETC, the pilot training enterprise is obviously a huge piece of what AETC does. So we're a part of that assembly line that turns somebody from a lieutenant that doesn't have wings into a pilot, or turns an airman into an enlisted aviator, or turns somebody out of basic military training into a special warfare a specialty within those career fields. So that's the first way that the TRG fits into the broader scheme of AETC operations. The second way is we run what we call the tech school to create SEER specialists. So we also train airmen to become survival, evasion, resistance, escape specialists. That starts with the detachment that we actually have down in San Antonio. So the Air Force's basic training occurs in San Antonio. Some of the graduates of basic training will go to our detachment down there, and if they pass a 2.5-week long rigorous course, they'll come up here to Fairchild and train with us in what we call the apprentice course, which is a 5.5 month long course. So those are the two main ways that we fit in operationally. The second mission is furnished by the 66th Training Squadron. We also have a fantastic support squadron, the 336 Training Support Squadron. They've got 33 different specialties within that one unit. So very broad, diverse squadron there that supports those two operations. So those are the main ways that we fit into the bigger effort within AETC.
Well, in one of those areas, I know when you talked about the SEER specialists, during COVID, you kind of took some time and had to take a little bit of a pause and re-looked at how the training was handled and what you did. Could you speak to a little bit about that, just in general with all your trainings, and then specifically with the SEER specialists, because I know there's some exciting news there.
Yes, ma'am. So that period of pause and reflection that was able to occur there during the kind of the height of COVID allowed us to revamp not only the way that we train SEER specialists, but also all of the students that come through the course. The Air Force and the DoD have changed significantly over the last few years as we reposture for great power competition. There have been some dialogue going on for a long time, certainly predating my time at the SEER school, about modernizing the curriculum accordingly. So what taking a knee for just a couple of weeks and then reducing the training that we were doing last spring to about 50% until we were in the summer allowed to do was to revamp the curriculum. We introduced distance learning for the first time, and then started focusing the more in-depth training on those individuals in the Air Force that are at a higher risk of becoming an isolated person on the present or future battlefield as we see it. So that was the most fundamental reorganization of that part of the survival school or the SEER school's mission. And then the second piece, you're alluding to training SEER specialists. So the cadre that run that program really have done a great job at refocusing the culture of that training regime, such that it's focused on coaching and mentoring students to make it through, which also makes us common to a lot of the other changes that are happening across AETC, and really focusing the training on the needs of the individual who we need to make it through that pipeline. So we were glad for not the last class that graduated, but 2 classes ago, 26 of the 28 students that went into our course up here graduated, which is a record low level of attrition to the same standard of performance. The class after that, the only individuals that weren't retained in training were based on injury, so they've been put in a later class. So we think we're really seeing the success of those efforts that taking of a knee allowed us to do in the spring into the summer during the COVID height.
No, which I think is great. I had the privilege of attending the first graduation class after, with the first group. So it was a privilege to get to do that, an honor. So thank you very much, and thank you for what you're doing, because I think it's really important to have that, taking that time and making that change that you guys have just been phenomenal with, that I've seen all across the Air Force.
Ma'am.
So one of the other things is, the SEER school is important not only to the Air Force, but also to other branches of the military. And could you speak to that?
Sure. So the SEER specialist career field is really unique in a couple of ways. One thing I'd like to point out is that a SEER specialist, when he or she graduates from that training program that we run, is the only career field in the Air Force that immediately comes out and is expected to be an instructor. So you've got these, in many cases, young airmen who aren't of drinking age in some cases, who you expect to stand in front of a room full of older people who may have been in the military for a little bit longer and speak and instruct with confidence. So really special professionals that we've got there that do that. The other thing that makes them unique is that Air Force SEER specialists are the only uniformed SEER specialists that do that as their sole career within the broader Department of Defense. So we can provide a deployable capability that will focus on the isolated person, figuring out how to leverage the whole joint forces ability to help that individual survive, to evade, and if God forbid they get captured, to be able to return with honor after that ordeal.
And with that, they also go out to other branches of the military, but you also have other partners across the world that come and participate. Is that true?
We do. So we do train some students from foreign countries. The number has been relatively low as of late, mostly as an outgrowth of the COVID pandemic. But we train individuals from other government agencies, from other branches of military, and sometimes from other countries as well.
So you're really doing a good job in making sure that everyone comes home safely.
Try our best, ma'am.
Thank you. I'd love to hear from you, though, too, the perspective of the relationship that the SEER School has with the Spokane community, because I think it's special with the SEER School and it's special with Fairchild.
Sure. So any base, whether it's in Spokane or anywhere in the country or in the world for that matter, and its relationship with its local community is very, very important. That's no different here, but I would say that in the case of the SEER School, it's even more important, and it's important in a few different ways. First of all, we use the local area to conduct a good amount of our training. So some in the audience may be familiar with the fact that we do a lot of training to the north of Spokane, up in the Colville National Forest. There are also some other areas of the state where we train, but the majority of our field training occurs up to the north. So our relationship not only with the community, but the Forest Service, logging, and a variety of different entities in the community that may not be a factor at some bases are definitely a factor for Fairchild and for the SEER School. We don't only do training out in the wilderness, though. We do urban training, as you're familiarized with during one of your earlier visits out to Fairchild. So those SEER specialists in training, those candidates, a part of what they do before becoming qualified as a SEER specialist, and then afterwards they recurringly practice this, is urban survival and evasion. So out in the city of Spokane, your audience may not know it, but at any point in time we might have SEER specialists in training. Out in the community, they might get dropped off on the north side of town and have a task to make it to the south side of town in 3 days while there's an aggressor force that's pursuing them. They live off of the land in the northern training area, and they live off of the city while they're working here in Spokane, to include sleeping in parks, eating out of dumpsters, and those types of activities that they need to do to sustain themselves and evade in the area. And it's all coordinated with local law enforcement, so there's an awareness that it's going on. But your audience may or may not know that it's happening in their midst every now and then out in Spokane. So we really rely on the local community in ways that are pretty unique, I think, when you could compare us to just about any other base or a group out throughout the Air Force.
Yeah, that was fascinating, and I didn't know that. So no, it is interesting to know, and that it is coordinated with law enforcement. So everyone's still being very safe and all of that, but it's also trying to help our community, helping you provide the best training that we can.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So with that, on average, how many airmen and women are part of the 58th Special Operations Wing? So I'm going to turn that question over to you, Colonel Corey.
Of course. So Mary, there's about 2,700 airmen and women that are assigned to the 58th Special Operations Wing. And those 2,700 produce between 12 and 14,000 graduates per year out of all of our programs. The largest number of graduates come out of the SEER training program that Nick commands, but we're producing graduates all the time.
Interesting. And I think our audience would also be interested in hearing kind of your perspective on what a typical day looks like for a wing commander.
For a typical day in the wing commander, it starts out by me planning what I think my day is going to look like, and then none of that occurs. So, but as a typical day in the wing commander, my job is to make sure that our 3 groups have exactly what they need to be successful in what they're going to do. So most of my time is spent making sure that they've got the resources, the manpower, and the equipment to be able to do what they need to do for their training. And then really, I spend most of my time looking between 1 and 3 years out so that I can make sure that their successors even will have what they need and try to be prepared for what may come in advance of that. So as part of it, it's also not just about the graduates that we're producing, but it's also about making sure that we have the right instructors to be able to do that. We have absolutely the best instructors that the Air Force has to offer in order to train the next generation of folks that are going to go out into our high demand career fields.
And with that, kind of looking at, you're in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And, how often do you get out and about to the other areas that you oversee?
I try to get out about once a month to go see the other areas. We have 7 locations that we operate out of now. And so I get out about once a month to one of the locations and try to see a little bit more on the ground what they're dealing with and how I can help them best throughout their time.
Well, we appreciate you being here today because I know this is one of your trips up here. So we coordinated having you come and help us explain to our community what you're doing. So thank you.
Of course.
So then, Colonel DePoma, what about your perspective on what the day in the life of a group commander is?
Sure. So it's probably fairly similar to what we heard from Colonel Curry there, though my scope of responsibility is not 2,700 airmen wide. It's about 580 airmen wide. But that sounds familiar, coming up at the beginning of the day with what you think the day is going to look like, and then watching all of it fall apart and diverting attention to something that's ultimately more important than what your first plan was. But it's a great job. Every day is moving fast. There are no slow days. You asked what a day in the life was, and they're all very different. But I can say none of them are slow days for sure. But for me, it's looking out for the 3 squadrons, just like Colonel Curry was talking about, looking out for his 3 groups, making sure they've got the right resources and guidance that they need to do their job.
No, and I know for both of you, it's still trying to balance a little bit of family time in there as well. So. I know you're not always home, but you try to be home and have those evenings.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So just got off of a little bit of leave with my family. I've got a couple different locations, just like Colonel Curry does, and one of those is in Alaska, which is a fantastic place to visit. And I had a trip up there a few weeks ago, and we had an event, a change of command on the 15th of July, which I knew in my mind when I planned it was a significant date, but I was in a hurry, because it's like this every day, as I was saying, and I realized after the fact and things were cemented that the 15th of July is significant because it is my beautiful wife Devin's birthday. So we had a trip to an Alaska vacation for my wife's 40th birthday. She'll probably not be very happy that I just disclosed her age on this program. But yeah, I'd say, for anybody out there, whether you're a commander or a lawyer or a business person or a civic leader, even when your duties are 24/7, you got to find time to take care of yourself and take care of your family, because if you don't, you can only sustain that for so long, and it makes you not fit to lead when you can't take care of yourself and your family.
Thank you, and I'm going to let you respond as well, Colonel Curry.
No, that balance of work and life and family is an incredibly important thing, and one that we encourage with our commanders and our airmen. We want to make sure that they're all ready to go, and because when we ask them to come to work, it's an incredibly demanding career field. Each one of our instructors is out there instructing in some of the most difficult situations that we can put them in, and we do that so that we make sure that when our airmen that we've trained go out to combat, that's potentially easier than what they saw in training, and so we try to make sure that all of those things are. But like Colonel DePoma, I also just got back from taking a little bit of vacation, getting to go see my parents with my family along the way, and it's great to get those breaks. But we try to get those whenever we can, because you never know when the next one's going to come.
Yeah, well, and you have teenagers too, so that.
I do, yes. They definitely keep me busy. I'm not sure that they think that they're the age that they really are. I think my daughter is convinced she's a little bit older, so.
I think any of us that have had teenagers, mine are older now, it's like, yes, that is very true with that age group. So,
yes.
So Colonel Curry, as the commander of the 58th SOW, you are responsible for the operations of squadrons and units spread out in every corner of the United States. What is it like managing an operation like this that is so geographically spread out? We kind of talked about that, but I'm going to have you talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So it's an incredible opportunity to be able to do that and manage folks across those 7 locations, but the way that we're able to do it is through just the trust, faith, and we provide what I like to call broad guidance and specific intent on what they need to go out and do to accomplish their mission. And so by putting the right empowered airmen in key positions as commanders and our senior enlisted, that we make sure that we have the ability to go out and react to whatever may come. We also spend a lot of time through communication. You know, email is both a blessing and a curse, I'm sure, to everyone. But between that and then COVID really has helped us in one way, is they've encouraged us to use more of the tools that are available to us through we meet virtually through our teams or through our ability to come on our computers and interact that way. And so those meetings have really focused in more because of COVID, I think, and allowed us to do things. So, but.
Yeah. Have you seen less travel with COVID? I mean, I know for a lot of us, as everyone's doing Teams and Zooms and all of those type of meetings, has that allowed you then to not have to travel as much to be able to make those meetings and be part of those discussions?
Absolutely. I've seen it more on the on our headquarters level. Like there are less times that I have to travel to go visit my headquarters, and it's allowed me to really focus in on being able to help the wing and put us in a good position to do that. And it's also because we're not traveling, I found that the meetings are even more focused, and they tend to get to the point faster, which is great as far as time management.
Yeah. No, it definitely has taught us all that.
Yes.
So through my work as a civic leader with the AETC, I have had the opportunity to learn about the important role that the 58th SOW serves in assisting civilian authorities in regional rescues. Can you expand on that and talk about that role here in Spokane County?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 36th Rescue Squadron, which is a part of the 58th Operations Group and the 58th Special Operations Wing, they fly the Hueys that you may see in and around here at Fairchild Air Force Base in Spokane. They're part of the Northwest Regional Task Force for Rescue. And so if hikers or people find themselves in danger and they need specific military capabilities, then they're able to call the Air Force Rescue Coordination Center, which is actually headquartered down in at Panama City, Florida. And the request makes its way to me to approve for the 36th to go out and look for individuals. And really what I'm talking about is they take those Hueys out and they're using their infrared capability that they have with their cameras, as well as their specially trained night vision crews. They're able to go out when maybe some of the civilian rescue forces are unable to go out and search, and they're able to go out and find folks. Over the course of the 50 years that the 36th Rescue Squadron has been in existence, they have just over 700 rescues. Some of them, just even a few months ago, rescuing some folks that were up hiking that may have found themselves in a bad situation. But it is an incredible capability, and one that when coordinated properly, we're eager to be able to support the community in the local area with what we have available.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and it's so important to our community to have that. I know the 36 just celebrated their 50th anniversary, and they work, all the time with the Sears School itself. But to have that capability to help our citizens is so important, and so thank you both for all you do to help in that manner. So as a couple last questions that I want to ask is, I know there's initiatives that are being in place across the Air Force. And so tell me about the initiative within the Air Force, such as the Air Force Rated Diversity Improvement Strategy. Now that's a lot of words, but it's really important work that's being done. And I know through General Webb, who oversees the AETC, and my role as civic leader, it's been talked about a lot. And so I just wanted to have you touch on that.
Absolutely. So the Air Force is in the midst of a pilot crisis, and it's a twofold crisis. One, we don't have enough pilots to fill the cockpits that we need to ensure that we're postured to be able to fight and win our nation's wars. So we're constantly working on the numbers. But it's also about increasing the diversity inside our pilot force and our rated crew force, not just our pilots. And so how Air Education and Training Command has gone about this is by looking at those factors and how we select folks to come to pilot training, and to figure out if there may be some socioeconomic factors that we never really looked at before or hadn't examined carefully enough to understand what their effect on our pilot production would be. One of those was that we used to, in our pilot qualification scoring method, look at heavily weight civilian flying time. Well, clearly civilian flying time is very expensive to get and pay for on your own. And so that was a socioeconomic factor that we were inadvertently putting into our pilot selection criteria. So we're looking at removing that. Additionally, we've got a big effort now going on with our general officers who are going out to meet other folks and really encourage people that maybe you're in less underrepresented groups to join the Air Force and to become pilots. And then the Air Force as a whole has been really encouraging scholarships to historical black colleges and universities, as well as ensuring that at the directed aviation schools that are spread throughout the United States, that we encourage those folks that are in those underrepresented groups to apply to the Air Force and come in. And it really comes down to, if you can see someone else inside the Air Force that's doing the job that you want to have, it helps encourage people to want to apply and want to do that. So we're looking across the board, not just racial diversity, but also we're also looking at our male and female mix, and making sure that we encourage folks to continue to serve, that not only just to try out to be a pilot, but also to continue to serve along the way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We do just have a few minutes left, so I mean, that's a topic we could go on and talk about for quite a while. But in the last few minutes, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience that I haven't asked?
Well, Mary, I want to say thank you, Commissioner, to opening it up and allowing both Colonel DePoma and I to come and speak with you. You know, the role you play as an Air Education and Training Command civic leader is an incredibly important one. It allows us to stay grounded and understand what the needs of the community partnership is. And also, I like to say, it opens up the fence line, right? I'm not sure sometimes if the fence is meant to keep people out or to keep us in, but it also provides a line, a demarcation where we struggle to get people through and help them understand what we're doing. And this Civic Leader Program and the Honorary Commander Program that you participate in are incredibly vital to help us understand those areas of communication blockages that we have, and for you to come in and see what we do and what's really happening at all of our Air Force installations and military installations, and understand what those folks who have volunteered to serve their country are doing. And so we really appreciate your participation with that.
Well, thank you. It's an honor, I can tell you that. And it's so important because in Spokane County, you know, Fairchild's one of our largest employers within the county, and we have one of the highest numbers of retirees that stays in our community. So Fairchild and the Air Education and Training Command, you know, is so important to us here in the community. So thank you. It's an honor to be a civic leader, and, you know, privileged to be working with both of you. So thank you, but I'm afraid that we are out of time. I've enjoyed our time together with Colonel Curry and Colonel DePoma, and I want to thank both of you for being part of our program today. As a reminder to our audience, all of our Spokane County Spotlights can be accessed on our website and YouTube channel. I'd also like to remind our audience that Spokane County has a newly redesigned mobile app, Spokane County On the Go. The app can be downloaded for all Apple and Android devices. To download the app on either Apple or Android, visit your app store and simply search Spokane County. No other registration or login is required. I'm County Commissioner Mary Cuney. Thank you for joining us today on the Spokane County Spotlight.